All right, hello, and welcome to a very late night, 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time live stream here. I'm just jumping on. Someone suggested or requested the usage of the Great Wave stamp in a previous live stream, and I realized that I didn't have one of my Nature Sheet number 5 sets open, so I thought I would just open that up. There's a couple things in here that I don't have available individually, and that's mainly that large surfer right there, and I wanted to use them in this scene here. Hello, Diana. How are you this evening? So anyways, yeah, brand new stamps here, and we'll get these popped out and see how this goes here. All right. I'm going to be doing the narrowest slimline card that I've done in a live stream to date here. I wanted to get a lot of visual dialogue going on without doing like a full-size page scene or something like that. So I've done something like this in the past using the Great Wave before, but I don't know, it's been probably over 10 years at this point in time. Maybe it's even been 15 years or something like that. But I did it in a vertical format, and I really like that. But I don't know, we'll switch it around a little bit. And I also wanted to add a moon into this scene. I used to go surfing and used to be obsessed with that. And one of the things that I loved doing the most in terms of surfing was I loved going surfing at around sunset time or something like that, and twilight, and oftentimes it would go into the night, especially if we were walking or hiking back into different surf spots. Sometimes some of our favorite spots, you had to walk to for quite some distance, and it would turn into the night. So there's a lot of good memories with that type of thing. I'm doing well, thank you. I'm just getting around to getting some stamping done after a few days off right here. Or I don't know, it feels like a few days off. I got kind of obsessed with doing some of those mirror cards and that holographic and gold combination. And I don't know, I still feel like doing some of that. But I thought about a way to do that in with the Great Wave here, and I thought it would be pretty interesting to stamp this on the rainbow holographic and to get those colors going in these forms like that. So I might have to do that after this scene, but I thought, yeah, let's get this done here and see how it goes from here. And then I thought, I had this scratcher knife out, and I thought, about doing some stamp board too. I pulled some of that out, and I thought, I'll just keep with the basics right here. So, let's see, what dimensions is this right here? I wanted to be able to mount it, so I've pre-mounted a card like this so that this can fit in there with a little bit of a white border and that glossy cardstock, dark cardstock kind of framing. It's almost like a black lacquer type of frame, but in card format. So this is 3¼ by 10. So I've taken 1 inch off the length and width here for this piece. What time is it there for you? Is it 1? You're in Eastern, right? Okay, so let's see. Okay, so if I was teaching people that haven't done any scenic stamping before, I would tell people in a lot of different sequencing, if they're beginning, I would recommend starting with the larger images first and then working smaller around that. Just like, I don't know, if you were to organize some, I don't know, closet or, your refrigerator or something like that, to kind of work with the larger images, because it's easier to fit all of the smaller images around that. So, oh yeah, 2 a.m. Right. And then it just makes things easier to fit in like that. I don't always work that way. Sometimes I work from front to back or something like that. If it's on vellum or something, you have to think about the sequencing like that. But when just working on a piece of paper, larger to smaller, usually, as a good starting point if someone hasn't done it before and they're just kind of thinking, okay, wait, what do you do, in this type of scenario that I'm going to be doing here. I'm going to do this in the StazOn. I've been using the StazOn more. I've just said, oh, what the heck with with the cleaning of stamps. It takes a little bit more time to clean, of course, but I don't know. I just happen to think that with the different types of combinations of papers and dye-based inks out there, maybe it's just best to go with a solvent ink. Then I'm going to have compatibility issues in terms of the different types of paper, the different types of the brands of dye-based inks. We just know that you're not going to get any smearing when it comes to those dye-based inks, at least in terms of this type of process right here. Now you can't use, alcohol inks. That's the problem with that. And I like using alcohol inks to layer things with. So, but as far as dye-based inks go, I don't know. Let's just keep it really simple here. Okay, so I've positioned the Great Wave here, and I just have it in like this. So I'm going to do some additional waves down here, and it's going to transition into shoreline here. Hello, Kay. How are you tonight? Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to put the moon up here too. So I'm going to use this image called Shimmering, okay? Now that one, I have a choice here. Well, you have choices on all this, but it's usually with really kind of lighter types of images or just main images in general. It's good to go with the darker color because if you start coloring in with your dye-based inks and whatever you do, you want a tone that's going to hold up against those color applications. So when it comes to something like the shimmering design right here, it's just a bunch of texture like this. And if the water is going to be blue, I could stamp it in a darker blue. Okay, that's one of those choices. I'm going to have a moon kind of up here, and it's going to be creating this lighting coming across the water surface. That's my concept here, at least right now. So I don't know. I think I'm just going to do it in black here. We'll just keep it really simple. I mean, just stamping it in dark blue is going to be simple too. It's not like, oh my God, that's a tougher thing. But in terms of just building kind of a compositional structure here, let's just go with the black on this one. I might have it transition a little bit. As a matter of fact, I think I will. So I'll wipe some of this bottom portion off about like so. So that it goes a little bit darker up here and then transitions down here where it's going to be transitioning a little bit closer to the Great Wave, like that. So it just goes a little bit lighter down here, about like so. And for me, it's going to be, the thing is about kind of blending in these colors in here. And it's going to get pretty dark in here so that this wave stands out right here, but not so dark that you don't have that kind of shimmering light coming across there. All right. This one's going to be, I don't know, I haven't done this one for a while. There's a lot of open images in this scene right here. A lot of times I'm going with a lot more solids here and there. So yeah, I just don't, I don't do too much of that. So there's going to be more opportunities for color and whatnot. You have this set, huh, Diana? Okay, so let's see, some additional waves down here. Okay, and then I'm going to put some sand. Where did I put that? Here we go. I have my snow pattern. Kind of forgot the name of that one. I haven't used it for a while. Snow pattern, sand pattern, you stamp it in blues or whatever, it's snow. If you stamp it in browns, it's sand, so it could be anything. Or could it be whatever, you know, texture or substance you want. Okay, let's see. Let's go for this block. I need to tidy up my desk here again. I did it in the beginning of the year, and I haven't really done it again. I don't know if you can see all these stamps. I have stamps everywhere. And that's just the way it goes, right? I tidy it up. I don't know. I don't tidy things up too often. I often end up just kind of using things just because it's on my desk at the time. Okay, so adding in some of these waves going into the distance. So I have a couple in the foreground like that, a couple right in there, and I've just used the top of it, you know, right back in here. So that's first impression, second impression, third impression. Now, do you notice how I didn't use the bottom portion of this? So with each impression, I was kind of tilting it like at a bit of in an angle like this, like that. So it's a little bit, it's flat for the first one. The second one, I went like that. And then the third impression, I kind of went like that. So you get these smaller portions of usage like that. Now, I've never tapped it down before. Like I have been going crazy with the water pattern stamp of late. And I don't know, it's gotten me thinking about doing more of these different types of patterns in kind of a tapping motion, especially for foils where, you know, if we can get some different tones and textures laid down without having to use the Brilliance ink that we have to heat set and then spray seal, it might be a kind of a good option. But I don't know, I haven't tried that yet. Okay, so let's do that, and let's see, let's get some of the sand pattern down here. Now this one right here, let me go with something a little bit lighter than black. Okay, and the reason why I'm saying that is because I'm going to have that surfer down here in black silhouette, you know, against the moonlight, looking out into the distance. And if I do the area that he's standing in a lighter tone, it'll stand out more. Okay, so let's see here. Let me grab brown. I'm just grabbing a kind of a medium tone brown for that usage. I'm with you, Kay. Although, I pile things on my desk and then I kind of roughly know where they are. And then usually when I clean my desk is that when it's gotten to the point where I can't find anything. And then I clean my desk, tidy everything up, and then I can't find everything, you know, where it's been put to, yeah, I can find my tools and things like that, or pens or something like that, but I can't find the imagery quite often. I don't know, there's probably some kind of sweet spot in there where, you know, you can find things kind of in a tidier environment and kind of a messier environment. Okay, I'm going to put this one at a little bit of a slope. Let's see. This kind of is sloping down this way, kind of like an angle like this, okay? Like that. And this, I think I'm going to counter that by having this sand kind of sloping up this way a little bit. If I went with this, everything would kind of be, it's like it's all slipping off the paper. So I'm going to counter that a little bit with this slope right in here. Do you see that? So it's kind of like zig, 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 you know, that type of thing. That type of visual movement going on in here. All right. All right, so we have that. And now I put this in here because I wanted to see how far down to go with those waves right there. All right, so let's see. Let's go back to the wave right here. And then Let's see. I'm trying to think of what tone I want to stamp it in. Let's see here. Still getting used to the stays on. I want to see what that secondary impression looks like. Okay. So I'm going to go light a little bit, and then we'll go, let's see. I go like this. A lot of this is going to be obscured, though, because I'm going to have a lot of tone in there, but I do want some texture just to give me a head start in that whole process like that. So look at that. See that there's a lot of open space in here, just in terms of tonal fill-in. So not a lot of solids, or I don't know, nothing. There's nothing solid in here. In terms of, I don't know, kind of whatever, image density. Okay, so here's the moon. Let's do the moon. Yeah, let's go with this one. I'm trying to decide on which moon to go with. I want something with those kind of striations in here, I think, and I have it in both of these ones right here. This one would be a good one, too. That one would fit a little bit more. But I think I need something a little bit more dramatic up there, something about the size of at least a dime. You know, a quarter size one would be fine too. But let's go with this one, I think. And let's do that in, let me see, what was the condition of my salvia blue? I couldn't remember if my salvia blue had an indentation in the thing. Okay, I think I found a new pad, a new old pad or something like that, an unopened old one. I don't have too many of these ones with the sticker on top. Most of them were ancient, like, I don't know, like 30-year-old pads, you know, with the gold embossing on top. So I did have a handful of the newer ones, which are like 20 years old. That's a new pad for me, is 20 years old. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so there's the moon right there. I'm going to put my little my finger right there just so I kind of know roughly where it is within this space like that, you know, so I can aim it, and it's going to be right next to my finger. I don't know if I probably don't even need this mask here, but why don't I wipe off the bottom of this a little bit then? Okay, so if it transitions into this, no big deal, because it'll be a lighter value of that blue. Hello, Carrie. How are you today? Tonight, today? And there, oh, I didn't get that part, but that's all going to be filled in with tones. So everyone, do you kind of see that right there? Diana, did you already go to sleep, and then are you up again, or are you just up at 2 a.m. again? What time is it for everyone else here? For me, it's 21 p.m., which is the time that which is the minimum time that we hour that we start stamping in, right? Which isn't too far from the truth for me. Okay, so let's see. I'm doing this in stays on. I'm wondering if I should stamp my little surfer down here at this time, or if I should do it later. I'm going to do it later, okay? Just so I can just get real free with my tonal additions to this piece. So, yeah, Kay's in the same time zone as me. Oh, Carrie's, let's see, 11, 12, 1, 2. Yeah, you're in Eastern too. I can't believe it's already been 20 minutes, that I've been doing this here. Okay, so let's bring this all together. Okay, so that was stays on, die and die. All right. Okay, so let's get to toning this piece in. I'm just going to grab some of my Marvy inks, and that shall make it go fairly quickly. This is on the the white coated silk paper, so not a glossy. So I can go with some colored pencils if I do need to do some of that, especially in these little detailed areas. I may or may not, want to do that, need to do it, etc. But here's, okay, so what I like to do is, here's my lighting scheme, okay? Coloring scheme, just in general, it's going to be a nighttime scene, so I tend to do those in blues. Not all the time, but a lot of the time I do. Okay, and then black. So I want lighting right here. I want this illumination from that shimmering stamp. That shimmering stamp, it gives me a head start on that in terms of that surface illumination for any body of water. I guess it could be ice or something like that too. So it's going to go light, well, it's going to go dark on the perimeter, and then light, dark, light. And when I say dark right here, you want some kind of little separation between your light source and your reflected light, okay? And see in here, in the wave, there's a little bit of a lighter area up here, just inherently, and you can see that it gets dark underneath here, so I'm going to go darker underneath here, but I still want some of this, this lighting up here to be reflecting off of the waves in here. And then see, this is a big wave right here, and waters can be transparent just depending on how thick the wave is, whatever time of day, but it'll be largely dark underneath here, but that wave will be casting a shadow in here, so it'll get a little bit darker in here, but I still want some of these waves to stand out where they're capturing some of that light. And then we have this little area down here that's going to be kind of a spotlight area in our, staging for our surfer down here. So he's kind of finished his day. Actually, it'll be like this, okay? And kind of looking out at the waves and whatnot. Because if you're a surfer, after you get out of the water, you stay on the shore and you just gaze out there. Unless you have to be some, you got to get to work or something like that. Then you leave immediately. But anytime a surfer gets out of the water, you're always kind of sitting there, looking back at the waves and whatnot. Okay, so let's get to this right here. That's the lighting scheme type of thing. A lot of times, people when they first start stamping, I've mentioned this in the past, but the comments that I've had over the years is from some people, not everyone, but they'll say, they got the composition, the coloring down, but sometimes their sensibilities in terms of scenic lighting is where they can use some improvement, okay? And it can be really easy just in terms of a general concept. It's going to change from scene to scene a little bit in terms of a tweak, but generally I have some light source in a scene or an area of light, and it's often in the sky or something like that within the composition. And then there's just a series of kind of a checkerboarding of light and dark. So it's going to be light, dark, light, there might be a little bit of darkness somewhere in here. Here, maybe light on this, dark underneath here, light, dark, light, dark, light. Okay, so I'll show you what that looks like right here. Okay. Or let's just keep it really simple. Let's just go with that perimeter lighting on here. Okay. I mean, you'll see the general concept of this lighting come about very quickly, okay? All right, so if you just kind of take things, a lot of people do this already, just in terms of their cards. I see it, but they don't see it as lighting a lot of times. If it's just like a card with a few different images on there, they're coloring, but they're also they're making their perimeters a little bit darker, or they just do a card like this and just color it, and then they kind of tone around on the scene like that, with the, paper, a ink blending tool or something like that. They don't see it as, I don't know what they see it as, maybe framing or something like that, because sometimes when people, I've seen their scenes and they say, okay, how do you do lighting or something like that? I'm thinking, well, you already have been doing it, according to a lot of the cards I've seen, but you just don't kind of classify it as lighting because it's not in a scenic kind of situation like this. But anyways, you see it right here? I've just kind of gone perimeter oriented like this, okay? Now I'm going to kind of separate the different spaces within this, and it could be based on what imagery is in here. If like you had a big tree right here or something like this, then you would add a little bit of shadow underneath it. This is a wave right here, so I'm adding the shadows underneath here a little bit. I need a little bit more tone. If it looks like I'm sweating here, it is because it's really muggy, and I took away my fan. I was doing some just record only videos where I actually watch them afterwards. I don't watch these live streams afterwards. My own live streams, because I'd rather do a new live stream in video than I don't watch my other ones. I mean, I watch it a little bit if I make like a shorter version of it, but I'm usually cutting off the sound and doing a voiceover or something like that. But I realized my fan that I've had on me is it's a little bit noisy, so I've turned that off. Okay, so here we go like this, all right? Now, there's not a lot of lighting. You can see the light throughout here, okay? But do you see this right here? You'll be able to see this much clearer, the darker I get here, but this is the first color that you're utilizing for that. So I've toned in kind of the entire perimeter like this, just to kind of frame things in a little bit, even in the brown area, because this is a nighttime type of scene. So, and then what I've done is, see, I've kind of create a little bit of separation between this area here and this object here. See, this object here is a little bit light, okay? And then I'm coming underneath this like that, so that stands out a little bit more, okay? So there's kind of light, dark, light, dark, light. It's a very thin layer of light, dark, light, and then, I don't know, something like this. That can be dark like that, light, dark right here, and then it's light like that. So it's just this oscillation. So you just kind of divide things up like that, just to create a little bit of separation. But it's not like, oh my gosh, it's a very kind of a disconnected lighting scheme here or anything like that, because it's the same color that you're using. So it's all unified too, but it's also separated a little bit, and how much you separate, it's just all up to you, okay? Most of this kind of comes about more through the use of the darker tones, but this is just, getting that basic one down, and it's really easy to kind of develop your lighting scheme accordingly, okay? All right, so this is just a darker tone. See, it's just a little bit darker, and if you can go through your incremental types of additions, it makes it a lot easier, just in terms of having like zero kind of precarious moments, when you just go a little bit darker than your previous color. Sometimes you can't even tell. Now, sometimes it isn't any darker at all. You're going on with your next color, and it's not affecting it all. Then, then just switch off to, your next color, okay? Darker one up. But this is what I would teach people in my classes, is that you just kind of line up whatever brand you have. It could be a pen or something like that you didn't have a pad for or something like that. But if you can just go light, a little bit darker, a little bit darker, darker. That one looks like black, but it's that Prussian blue there. Okay, so anyway, I woke up God's desire for me. But I don't know. Do you wake up oftentimes like that then? Go to bed and then wake up, or? Okay, let's see. There were a lot more clouds tonight. I'm not sweaty, I'm glistening. I look at myself in this little, little video picture-in-picture section. I'm thinking, oh my god, I need like a stage makeup or something like that. To take off the shine or whatever. Anyway, so be it. Hello, Peggy. How are you tonight? Today? Whatever time it is for you. Thanks for joining in. If anyone else is on right now, thanks for joining in and checking out this scene. Right now, we're going on to Caribbean Blue. Okay, now when we start moving into your darker tones, okay, it's not a super dark tone or anything like that. What you do is, now especially on something like this where I'm coming into a very narrow, vertical slimline type of format here, usually the lighter tones go into the scene the farthest, okay? This is a little bit too stark white, so I'm going to come into it a little bit with a streak like that. But you just kind of change your stroke a little bit. You don't go in quite as far, but you just kind of shorten up your strokes like this, okay? And apply, I'd say apply a little bit more methodically by the time you get to, not really this one, it's probably the next tone that I get to, the next blue value, okay? Because if you want to retain this light in here, you don't want to eradicate it all with the use of your medium to darker tones. So when I teach people how to color in my first class, the Stampscaping 101, I guess I call all these videos 101, but in my workshops, okay, my first workshop, I'm kind of teaching them color applications and how much to apply. And they all get that, but outside of the workshop types of situations, a lot of times what I see in people that lose their light, they never lose their light with the first couple colors. It's always when they get to the darker ones, okay? And it's because they're going in a certain distance with the lighter ones, okay? And they get really used to it. It's muscle memory. And then they take that and they do that same thing with their darker ones. So they're coming in the same distance, but they're starting off with a much darker tone to begin with. So by the time you do a streak like this with, summer sky like this, you make a 2-inch streak with that. It's starting off like super light. So the time you drag it in there 2 inches, it's, hardly visible because it's such a light tone. But if you do that with this, that end of that streak, and this is, I don't know, whatever. That the summer sky is probably like an under 10% blue. It's probably like a 7% value blue, if not 5. Okay, and this one's like I don't know, like a 90% darkness blue or something like that. So you put on the brakes accordingly. And then also, it depends how wet your pads are, stuff like that. If it's dry pad, then yeah, you streak in there more. But if it's a really juicy pad or something like that, just, adjust accordingly. So on here, the strokes are something like that, And with the lighter tones, it's might be something like that, so it's much longer than this, okay? All right, so that being said, let's get into this like so. maybe you're better off with like little catnaps or something like that, you know, like Edison. This one friend of mine was saying that there was some kind of he was just telling me this a few years ago, but I don't know, I forgot what type of sleep schedule he was on or had turned to, but he was telling me what it was, but it was a series of kind of just shorter naps or something like that. Or I mean, it couldn't be like throughout the day because he's got to work, during the day. He's software engineer. So I forgot what it was, but I remember he did get up though, once or twice or something like that per night. And I don't know. He said it was more. It was better for productivity. I don't remember what he said because I was thinking, it's not going to work for me, especially when my son was younger. But I thought it was interesting, though. Okay, so anyways, you see that, how that's kind of developing like that? It all seems kind of monochrome. So here, let me get into my darker tones. Let me go to, okay, I do have a, it's kind of navy bluish before I get to that Prussian blue. The Prussian blue is really, really dark, so I'm going to be careful. Okay, it was my number 3 blue here, which is just called Blue from Marvy. That's their very generic, basic blue tone. Their very basic colors are the really low number colors. So this Marvy Blue is their number 3 color. Number 1 is black, the most popular color. And then their number 2 is red. It's kind of a warm red though. All right, so here, and one of the things I do too is instead of using this full thing like that, I kind of make it a little bit more narrow too when I get into the darker tones like that, just so I can keep it a little bit more streaky looking. It's getting a little bit saturated, so sometimes you have to kind of switch up a little bit from kind of a streaking application because, I mean, it is going on there pretty good. If it was glossy cardstock, it wouldn't be applying at all just because of the sheer amount of saturation and the surface moisture that has built up over all these tones, especially after using the re-inker. Okay, but this, I don't know, maybe it's because it's so hot too here. Okay, but see this, I'm kind of being a little bit more, I don't know, I guess selective in terms of my placement of this color, or this value, not color, but value of color. It's becoming a little bit more irregular like that, which I want. Okay, I don't want just a general tone laid down here, okay? All right. Now, you wouldn't be able to see like brown tones or something like that, but this is art, not photography, so, we're just doing it accordingly. Okay. I guess I could switch up my paper towel. It's getting really, really worn out and ratty. See, it's all frayed like that. A lot of people still don't want to use paper towels. I used a lot of the, or exclusively used the Colorbox stylus tools for many years. Those things were awesome. But people this is too primitive for people a lot of times. But I don't know, it's like one of the, I don't know, I put it next to, for me, my use, and from what I've found, I put it number 2 to the stylus tools in terms of functionality. I just find it very, very useful in terms of, it's because the paper towels are so absorbent. I mean, a sponge would be okay too, but this one's a little bit firmer than a sponge, so I find the I don't know, the solid feel of it in conjunction with how absorbent it is, because that's what paper towels are made for, right? For the most part, to absorb liquids. And if it can absorb liquids really good, it can transfer it because it has it back in the pulp. That's why I always say with the cotton balls, the synthetic ones, which are kind of more, like nylons and things like that, capillines, in terms of fabrics, they wick moisture away from the body, where like cotton kind of keeps it. That's the same thing I find with, the pulp of the paper towels. It just, it absorbs and it transfers really easy for me. Oh, and some people were saying that, well, they can't use it because they get, the pattern showing like this. This is a pattern texture, it's decorative like that. So what they're doing is they're getting, when they use this like this, okay, it's like this. And then when they use it, they're getting that, that pattern of the paper towel. It's like using a stamp or something like that, where, they're getting that textural pattern, like, oops, I just went out of focus. Okay, see like that? But, paper towels, all you have to do is go like this, and then you've worked all that texture out of there. Now, it's just, it's just tone like that. So you just smash it down like that, and then that's it. I don't know, it takes like, say 2 seconds or something like that. And I've been using it for, I've been using that same paper towel. I was even using that one same spot of it for this entire duration. It's not, that's taking 2 seconds out of time just to smash it down like that. It's, that's a really, small effort for that amount. It gave me a, pretty good amount of, usage there. Okay, so that is that. Let's move on up to the Prussian Blue. Watch out with the Prussian Blue. If you guys know Prussian Blue from Marvy, it's a super dark tone, but it's also it's really thin in terms of the viscosity. So it is really pretty absorbent, in terms of a surface like this. So if I go like this into it with the Prussian Blue, it's going, it's really going to leave a mark. So, that being said, I just don't use it in a very precarious method like that. Let's see. Oh, hello, PJB Stamper. Oh, you got to get up early to ride the stationary bike. Oh, before driving up to the new house. Sounds like fun. Yeah, thanks for joining in and saying hi. Oh, the PJ, yeah. Stampaway changed their life, at least their sleeping time. Let's see. The mail move. Oh, the mail move. One of those final touches there. Oh, the main move. Okay. But the mail move, that is one of those final touches that we put in there when we're moving. You don't want to do it too early. Then you don't want it to, too late. Otherwise, mail's going to show up at the old place. Okay, so here comes my Prussian Blue. So see, that Prussian Blue, see, I didn't stamp that, that moon over in that direction, but it doesn't matter because I'm filling it up with tone anyway, so that's why I didn't, wasn't worried about at all. Okay. Hello, Paula. Thanks for joining in. Good to see you. PJB, have a good day tomorrow. All right. right, adding some tone. I went a little bit too dark down there. See that right there? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm wiping this off, okay, a little bit more like that. Now see how it goes on really light like that? So you just kind of wipe it off like that, okay? And then you're using a much lighter version of it. So I'm going to have to blend that in, which is no big deal, because this is going to get darker anyway, okay? All right. If you've just joined in, I was kind of explaining to people kind of early. I don't know. This is about the Great Wave here, but in many ways, it's what I ended up talking about is the kind of the main. I don't know, whatever methodology, technique standpoint of this video is the oscillation of lighting. How do you create lighting throughout a scene? Well, for the most part, it's darker on the perimeter like this. But then we have these areas of reflected light in here. But in order to make lighting kind of stand out, you have to have a little bit of contrast going in there. So it goes from light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, light. I mean, you know, there might be a little area of light, a little bit of area dark. It might be a larger area or something like that. But there's this oscillation of it running across here. If this was only light on the inside like that, you know, light is by perception. Okay, so if, you know, we can look at something like this and say, oh my gosh, that's how dark is that? But then if we put this, you know, something dark right next to it, that little area in there is now suddenly lighter, you know, in terms of contrast, right? Like even this dark area like that. So you do this oscillation. They call it checkerboarding or something like that. You can think about it like that as you're applying tones across a scene, just in terms of creating this situation that looks like reflected light in there. That's a little trick that I learned in intermediate life drawing is what it was. Yeah, I couldn't remember what class it was. It was intermediate drawing or intermediate life drawing. It was intermediate life drawing, I think it was, in my school days. Okay. All right. So let's see. I'm going to go in here. Now, black is going to be the thing that really brings all these different areas together. So it looks pretty rough right now still, but black is what is the thing that'll do the trick. But I want to get all these preliminaries done first, so with lighter tones, okay? And there's going to be a little surfer down here, so I'm leaving a little area illuminated, and I want to have them in a little bit of a kind of a warmer stage lighting. And another thing that I'm often mentioning is to see your pieces, not so much like, or to think it, not thinking about them so much as like a slice of, like a photograph or something like that, and what we would see out in this scenario if we went outside or something like that, but to see it more like a stage. And you're using different colored lighting with different gels, you know, whatever, over the top of your spotlights to kind of enhance whatever you want your viewers to see. So I don't know, if you have a figure in a warm light, you know, there's going to be a different kind of emotional context if you're watching a stage production than if it's a, you know, a neutral light or a cold light or something like that. So stages, yeah, are a good way to think about things. Okay, so let's go a little bit darker before I go to that black. This is such a narrow piece right here too. I'm usually not working so narrow, but I don't know, I felt like doing it on this one here. Like extreme slimline, you know, formatting here. To kind of build this vertical visual dialogue in here. So in here, it's going to be about the moon, the wave, and this figure. It's going to be a surfer standing down here. But the secondary thing, you know, in terms of I don't know, probably the most attention-getting thing in here that people won't really think about when they're looking at this is the lighting. So that's kind of a, I don't know, a secondary buried visual, you know, that hopefully, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's going to get people's attention, but it's going to serve its purpose in terms of, I don't know, I guess framing the different main kind of, I don't know, themes of this scene right here. All right, let's see. This is starting to take on kind of a muddier look right here. But again, that's where my black hopefully brings it all together. I don't know, maybe it doesn't bring it all together, but kind of resolves all these things like this. And what I was mentioning on this piece right here, when I was first starting this out, it was usually in my scenes I have a lot more solid areas, you know, trees in here like this that are kind of solid forms. But on this one right here, it's all open for the most part right now. I think I'm going to put in some additional forms in here. But for the most part, a lot of these things are open, so there's a lot more areas to fill in with color and whatnot. Hello, Linda. Good to see you. I like Prussian blue too. Or as Paula says, I love the Prussian blue. I love Prussian blue. I love that color so much. What would I do without that? I'm trying to think of what I would do without that Prussian blue. I guess I would go with, well, I have the Prussian blue, you know, the re-inker, but I'm trying to think. The way to get that kind of really dark tone blue, if you go with a navy blue too, and if you go with a navy blue and black, that would kind of give me a version of Prussian blue. Hello, Jacqueline. The size of the paper, I already forgot. It was 3 1/4 by 10 inches. So it's almost like a half page, but I've taken off 1 inch off the length and width, or I don't know, whatever, the height and the width. And that's so that I can, you know, when this is done, I could put it on this double kind of mount right here, and it'll fit right in here like that. So I pre-made this piece right here. Okay, so I cut off, you know, 1 inch off the top, or 1 inch off both ways like that. Okay, so let me see here. I'm right in this spot right here where I can, I don't know what's normal for a slimline. I think you can go with anything. I mean, like a bookmark one, you know, could be, this one's even thinner. This is like scrap piece, right, that. Okay, let's see. Okay, so I'm going to give myself a little bit of horizon right here. Hopefully that's on straight. I can see my paper underneath it, but let's go in like this. I'm just kind of creating a little bit of a horizon here. Let me okay, yeah. I just want to make sure that's straight. I don't want the world to be tilted here. If it was a little bit, that's no big deal, but I don't want it like way off. Okay, so right here, what I'm doing is I'm going for that type of thing, and what I'm doing is I'm building it up like this, okay? So it goes like that, some dark to light like that, and that's what I'm doing right here, dark to light, and that's what I'm doing right here. Do you see that right there? So see, I want that edge to kind of taper off like this. See, that's what I'm always doing when I'm doing these tones like this. I'm going like this. And then what I'm doing is I'm wiping off like this. So you don't go like this and then up, otherwise there's going to be a solid, you know, little tone. I went a little bit solid there, but here, let me see. Let me do it from this side like that. All right, so I can get kind of that tapered application of that. I'm completely dry here. Okay, but anyways, but see, that creates that little bit of that horizon separation like that. Kind of coming from both ends like that, where it tapers off in the middle, where the light, where the light is. Okay, and then you just kind of do that same type of thing. Now, here's the thing: don't do it everywhere. Don't do it over this whole space. By the time you get to this dark tone, kind of leave it a little bit streaky. If it's water, I mean, maybe not even if it's green, if it's like background hills, I tend to do this too. But see this like this. This one's not. Let me see. Let me kind of. You just stay in that one area. There it goes. And see, it kind of starts dragging in. You'll find this kind of little area like that start to build, and then you kind of just stay there and keep with that stroke, like that. And then see, it's starting to pull in. I don't know if you can tell that like that. And then, I mean, if you need to fill in, then fill in. But that's the thing. And that's what I'm doing up here in the corners too. I'm kind of taking this. A lot of times people just go like this. They go like this. And then it's this big, huge bar of all black, and then it goes to light. But kind of transition it more like this from the outside edge in. Like that, especially if it's in a very small space like that. So see, it's going from solid dark to it's a little bit more, of a lighter tone like that. And then it's also a little bit more rounded like that. See that? I mean, if this whole area is up in sky, you can do that. This is, represents water. Okay. All right, I can't stand it. I got to open my window behind me. It's like, I don't know, I feel like it's 90 degrees sitting underneath these lamps right here. Okay, that's much better. I do have a window behind me, but I usually leave that closed, especially during the daytime with all that, noise of cars driving by. Okay, let's see. Hello, Christine. How are you tonight? Yeah, I'd say the majority of my, I don't know, slimline piece, it's a lot of the scraps from my other pieces. I guess, I don't know, I guess all bookmarks would be kind of considered slimline, right? I don't know, unless there's like a different style of bookmark, rather than, your typical elongated piece. Um, you know, where's Linda? every time I come up with think of something that we should try out. It's like, all right, where's Linda? Is Linda still on? I was going to say, Linda, we should do, or any of you guys, can you imagine taking an 11 by 17, having like I don't know what it would be, 4 inches by 17 inches, or what about 4 by 16? It would kind of be in that ratio. That'd be a really big scene though. But can you imagine doing a slimline that's like 16 inches long? I don't know. I know if I can do that on like a video like this, because it would, this is only like 10 inches right here. It'd be like going, it would be hard to film it. It would be going off the edge of my, it'd be going out of frame all the time here. Although I have done the 11 by 17 piece before. Or maybe not, I don't know. I think I raised my camera for that one. But I think it would be pretty interesting. I don't know, what's the longest slimline card anyone's ever done? And and do you have some tabloid size paper, 11 by 17? So that's your that's the problem you've established, Linda, is I'll kind of suggest something for you, and then you'll have like four versions of it, like the next day. So let's see. So an 8.5 by 11, like divided up. I mean 11 by 17. So 11 by 17. So it's like 3 by I don't know, like 3 by 16 or something like. You can get three 17-inch, maybe go 16-inch or something like that, so you can put a matted or something like that. So we'll see those from you tomorrow, Linda. I don't know. We'll call Guinness for you too. The Guinness Book of World. I don't know. Does everyone know Guinness Book of World Records? You don't see them on talked about anymore these days. I don't know. Do they even make that book in hard copy anymore? I noticed someone got a world record for something. Oh, it was I was watching a YouTube video. It was the Guinness World Record for the amount of dominoes, like a domino, setting where they, when they knock it over and they had like this machine that set up the dominoes. There's this little like robot thing that set up the dominoes. They had to fill up the dominoes into this one little thing, but it goes and sets them down. It wasn't all creative or anything like that going over. It was just like straight, lines of dominoes or something like that. But they got the like the Guinness Book of World Records number for that. I was thinking, man, is Guinness still around? But yeah, Linda will have the Guinness Book of World Record for the longest slimline card ever. And then someone will just come out with like some kind of like paper roll that's like continuous, and they'll stamp something out. Okay, so anyways, this is kind of getting there a little bit. I'm gonna have to refine a lot of this, and again, I don't know. I left a lot of room for the colored pencils if need be. I was really kind of thinking about doing this one on the glossy, but I've done this type of scenario before. It was years and years ago for this scene right here. So I wanted to do it on matte just for a difference, even though the last one I did like this was like, I don't know, it was like 15, 20 years ago. There hasn't been enough time, you know what I mean, in between for me to do that one again. But yeah, I really loved, when I was a kid, my dad used to bring home paper from his work. It was just stuff that they were tossing out. I don't think they recycled back then, but I think they just tossed it, back in the early 70s or whatever, 70s. And it had all the stuff on one side kind of typed out or whatever, stuff that they were printing out. But on the back side, I was able to use that. So that's where the paper that I had like reams, of paper that I could use to draw on. So there was a, unlimited amount of papers. But the paper that, sometimes would be like really desirable, it was almost like dot matrix or something like that, but it was like early 70s, so whatever types of machines. But if I got one of those things and it was like folded, where you can fold out and there's like 8 pieces, that was like gold, to a kid, or to me. because we can do these whole big scenarios and draw on them. We were always drawing, like, back then it was always like war things, like tanks and stuff like that, and like bombers and stuff like that, or space, scenarios or something like that. Battleships, But I don't know. Yeah, the elongated format, was always like the real big treat back then. Paula's got 11 by 17 paper, 17-inch slimline, Paula. Christine's at work, but with a migraine. Uh-oh. Well, hopefully that will pass for you. Do you have some, something that you take for that migraine there? Watching these live streams, Christine, it has been known to remedy the migraine headache, too. In a very natural way. Of course, with, how I'm always shouting and stuff like that during the live streams, that probably doesn't help out too much for you. 4 or 5 days. Okay, we'll see all those slim lines, Linda, from you. And whoever else has the, Paula, you guys got the, got those, big, huge format shot, post, do some like gigantic, slim lines and shock the stamping world, Oh, a migraine shot earlier this morning. Yeah, my son, I've never had a migraine before, but my son's had them. Okay. All right, we're starting to get there. It's kind of coming together. It's this black that kind of really brings these pieces together for me because it kind of fleshes things in with whatever color scheme. Yeah, I haven't done this one before. Like if I made that into a sun, like with a glowing type of scenario, I think that would be kind of cool too. And I'm really tempted to do this whole thing right here on rainbow holographic. Can you imagine that? I don't know. I was thinking about doing it with this one, but I wasn't quite sure if I really felt like doing all of this toning work and shading work with the Brilliance black. Which, I do like doing that, but I thought, I didn't know if I wanted to get, my hands would be kind of, well, they're already coated with ink. Look at that. Okay, so this is the only down part of using the paper towels like this, because it totally soaks through like that. But all this stuff comes off in 10 seconds with that little pumice sponge, that I just keep in the sink next to, our bathroom downstairs. So it really cleans up really fast. I learned that from all those stamp stores, that I used to go to teach workshops at. "2022 is the 67th year of publication for Guinness." That's interesting. God, that Guinness Book of World Records in the 70s, man, that was so big. You'd hear people were always like, that publication was just constantly on various programs. People were always, there was like Guinness, we would see like shows like, someone's breaking the world record for like swallowing goldfish and stuff like that. But oh, longest, I don't know, Evil Knievel was like breaking records, like, I don't know, what was the, the world record for, jumping buses or something like that. Or there used to be these TV programs. That's Incredible, I think it was. I don't know if that was the 80s or 70s. I think that was the 80s, maybe. I don't know. That might have been the 70s. It was all about Guinness. Feats of Wonder. Okay, so adding on some colored pencils, just a little fine tuning here, going into some of these waves and just getting a little bit more definition in them. We'll add in some white pigment ink in here and white paint pen work too. Luckily, the white paint pens these days. If I was going on here with a gel pen, I don't know if I can go over the top of wax, but the new acrylic white, paint pens, they're pretty good about coloring over everything, so we're pretty good on that. See, and, I mean, if you're ever worried about kind of blotting off too much tone somewhere, or going into the interior with too much darkness, I should say, you can just leave that for, your pencil work if you're working on something like a matte or a semi-gloss. Okay. We'll be seeing the slimline murals. Yeah, that's right. It would be a mural. I like that in terms of a term there. The slimline mural. Got to remember that Kay came up with that term right there. Okay. Let's see. The rainy weather could be the thing that's contributing to the migraine there. Oh, Bobby and Cindy Brady. What did they do that was, I'm trying to remember that episode. Oh, wait, what was that? The tree? Was that like living up in the tree house or something like that? Or am I thinking about something else? Oh, the Ripleys, believe it or not. I remember that too. Um, yeah. The Ripleys, the Ripleys, are you talking about the TV program? Yeah, I think that that Brady Bunch episode sounds. I don't know what I'm thinking. I'm envisioning them up in a treehouse or something like that. Okay, going on with the darker tones. So I'm just working with the lighter tones and then working incrementally into the darker tones, like this again, and trying to get some transitions of tones there. Oh, the teeter totter. Okay, I got that. Yeah, that's not. Yeah, that sounds familiar now. We used to watch that all the time. The Brady Bunch. I think for us, the Brady Bunch was on in syndication. I didn't watch it. I probably didn't watch it when it was on with new episodes, but I watched it mostly in syndication. And I think it was, I don't know if it was on just, the Partridge Family was on all the time too. I'm trying to remember if those were back to back in terms of, the syndication rebroadcasting. All right, I'm really spending a lot of time with this color in here. I don't know, it's kind of fun. I'm not seeing like I know it's not like dynamic video watching kind of processors right here, but it's getting all these little areas kind of refined where it's, I don't know, it's kind of, it's like right in here. See this right here? That's a really harsh like black right there. So see this right here where I just kind of blend that in a little bit more by making the area around it a little bit darker. And then I'll follow up with black. So it's refining all of my little areas that, I didn't really do a very good job kind of blending things out. And again, it's because I knew that I can just do it. I can get kind of the refinements in with these pencils or something like that, later on, which sometimes it's just easier to do that way. Now, the reason why I don't just do the whole thing in pencils, there's no way that this would look like this if I did the whole thing in pencils. I think if I did the whole thing in pencils, that would be okay if you want to go for that look. And I do like the colored pencil look a lot, but I just can't get that degree of saturation only with pencils. That's why I like to go with inks and pencils if I'm going for that look. Like of deep saturations and whatnot. Okay, so here goes the black, like this. Okay. And of course, just regulate your degree of application depending on how much pressure you apply. So right here, I'm getting that nice horizon kind of extension out there like that. And I can get a really good degree of kind of separation between this background and this wave if I want to with this colored pencils. I can come into underneath here if I want to. Actually, maybe I'll do that, but let's do that with a lighter tone here. Inktense Pencils. I saw those, yeah. I saw those when I was looking up the colored pencils. I think I saw the Inktense. Was that Derwent by the Inktense ones? I had to look online because I was going through some old supplies. Now, see, I just got right up underneath there. That would be harder to do with a, big old, wad of paper towel getting right up to that line or like that. So the colored pencils, take care of that just fine. I'm going to have some of that frothy kind of spindrift coming off that wave with the Dr. Martens in here. And we'll also do that down here in these like splashing waves down here to give it a little bit more dynamics. So, as I'm applying some of this, I'm keeping that in mind too, during this whole thing. Sometimes when you're going with like one type of texture, with the inks, with the colored pencils and things like that, it can get a little bit stale in terms of the different textures or textural contrasts that you have in there. So just things like this, the acrylic paint pen, stuff like that, will bring in all of that too into the piece. So I'm keeping all of that type of thing in mind as I'm doing this. Actually, I don't know, I'm not even really thinking about it. I just know, from experience that, I tend to add all that in anyway, but I'm trying to think about it in terms of what people see when they're doing their own pieces and putting myself in their spots. Like like this was looking kind of muddy before, but I just, you just kind of, these are the things that are doing the fine kind of additions to, you know, the whole process. So if it looked really muddy for me or not smoothly applied or as smoothly applied as I might want it to be, you know, it's not really any big deal because you have other types of media that you can use that are to come, you know, if you choose to use them. So here's some, you know, the alcohol pens too. Now, I'm not going to go with the alcohol pens over the black because I use the StazOn for that area, but up here I use the, or did I use, maybe I did use StazOn for that black. I don't know, it's dry by now. I don't see any kind of smearing. But I was going to say, like, up in here, in this moon, I can come into this and add extra kind of layers. I always see it as like putting on like glazes of tone into the pieces like that too. Okay, now I'm not getting any kind of smearing like that. Okay, I guess, I don't know, the StazOn setup. I haven't been working with StazOn very much, but I did it right after I stamped it once, and it was like, oh my god, this is like alcohol ink is like totally putting it back into solution, but I'm not getting any smearing at all here. I guess it's been set, you know, maybe it's had a chance to set up and, you know, totally absorb and evaporate or something like that, but it's not going back into solution and smearing, so yeah. This would be a good area for, if I stamped out my octopus underneath there, there could have been like a kraken underneath there. You can put a kraken with, you know, like that little like fishing boat or something like that, you know, in these waters like that with this, you know, coming up from underneath like that. That'd be cool for a Halloween scene or something like that. Okay, now see, I'm still going for that kind of tapered type of application like that, going into this scene like that, like so. And I'm coming from the outside edges in because it's usually darker on the outside and lighter on the inside like that. I haven't played with Inktense much. I played when I first got them. I need to play more with my supplies. Yeah, it's always one of those things about having enough time to play with so much different media out there. I know exactly where you're coming from. Thanks, Christine. Glad you like it. Coming around. I always like this. When I'm doing these waves like this, a lot of times I don't like the preliminaries early on because there's so much open area, but I love like rendering these things and getting all these kind of fine tuned areas, like going into the shadows of you know, the waves and things like that on this this set right here. And it's because there's so many open areas. You know, it's easier to do. It like silhouette stamping is the easiest one of all because you can just stamp like a solid image. So usually my designs are they're pretty modeled. There's a lot of darker areas and then lighter areas in them. And but this one, there's a lot of like open area. So on one hand, you have to fill in a lot, but then on the other hand, you can manipulate them more. So there's a little bit of that trade-off. So with most of my designs, I like to have what I thought was the ultimate balance between kind of solids and closed and opens. Like this, you know, these islands right here, for example, are an example of mostly closed. They're mostly silhouettes, but there are open ends on some of these. I don't, you know, I might use some of these as little islands in the background, by the way. Yeah, in fact, let's just do that right now. But my main point about this one is I really love putting like little shadows like into these areas that are in here. So I just reiterate all the shadows like this, you know, with pens, you know, with markers and things like that, you know, coming underneath here like this. I really love doing these little types of kind of finishing kind of touches like this, because it really kind of brings things together like that. And I like watching that happen. With this one, it kind of like, I don't know, it's like I keep doing that type of thing, and then it's like I finally look up and it's like, oh, okay, you know, it's like modeled like I want it to be. Or sometimes I don't even realize it because, you know, I'm just kind of focusing in on the little detailed areas like that. Yeah, the wave and shimmerware stays on, and the rest, yeah, the anything in color, the moon and the sand was dye based. Yeah, that's correct. And okay, so the stays on, I'm using the stays on over this because there's a lot of wax up here at this point in time, and the stays on, what I've found, seems to apply to the colored pencils with no problem. I haven't done it like too many times, though. I'm saying that, you know, I'm kind of like thinking, does it though? You know, because it doesn't seem like things would stick to wax. So I was kind of surprised when it did. And I don't know, one of my previous scenes. All right, so there's a little island right there. It's just a little bit of a structure. I'm not going to put one like right in the middle there because it's going to break up, you know, things. So I'm going to have it kind of coming in from the sides like that. And I'll put this one a little bit on the horizon up here. I'll just use the same one, but I'm just using different sides like that, kind of going off into the distance. And I think it can stand to have one more here. Let me use a little bit of a different size one. I'll go really small. They look like slugs. You can use it for a slug too. Let's come like about like let's come like so. All right, so see this kind of little pattern like that coming in here. And then just after if you do stuff like that, just what I would suggest is to come into them afterwards. They're a little bit wet right now, but kind of anchor them down with a little bit of shadow. So this is a blue area, so I'm coming into it with the blue into that area. And then I'll just use like a black or something like that. This area is already kind of a little bit dark like that, so a little bit more of a transitioning kind of imagery going on in there. Let's get the surfer here, and let's go ahead and stamp that, and then we'll stamp in some foreground. Or, wait a minute. Let me add in that atmospheric mist, I think, first, right here, because I want this to be a really nice solid silhouette against that background in there before I do that. Okay, so let me add in the white highlights, effects, etc. Okay, let's see. Yeah, the tentacles coming out. Or you can also do, if you do something like this, what you do is some of them darker maybe coming out, but then this part right here, what you do is you blot out that so it looks like it's going under the water and it's a little bit more obscured like that. Memento for stamping, and haven't had smearing when using. Yeah, the Copics shouldn't smear the water-based, dye-based mementos, but find it harder to color larger areas. Can't seem to get a good blend. Yeah, Christine, I'm with you there. I don't like to when I'm stamping anything, this goes for anything. I don't like to have large, vast areas of open space to blend my tones with or something like that. I usually like to get some kind of texturing going in there just to give myself a head start because I can't go for like a super smooth blend of anything. Maybe I can do it with colored pencils, but you know, the colored pencils aren't going to be nearly as vibrant just on their own. So I'm with you there completely. That's why I like to like on foils or something like that too. Lately, what I've been doing is if I have a big area of water, I'm just like using this like as a toning, texturing element in there. And I'm wondering what I can do for the sky too. I might use something like the cloud space or something like that for that type of application there. But yeah, I don't like to do that. I don't like any like big. I would say even if I had like an area like this big, like right here, to fill in, that's not my really my preference. So I'd like to get something going in there just ahead of time. It's just too much space to fill in. It's too much to ask of me at least. I like to get those things in there first, from a textural standpoint and blending standpoint. I don't know. Unless I see, most of the times I'm not working with like kind of like detailed media either, or the opposite. I'm working with detailed media. I'm working with smaller media. I don't have the larger types of applicators or something like that. Um, okay, one of these pens is flowing really well and one of them wasn't. Okay, actually, I think I got that one going. Yeah, here we go. Now I colored the front of this in a little bit with ink just because it was hard to kind of work around it. So I'm just kind of redefining it here with this pen or marker, whatever. Okay, and then let's come across in here too. So we've come from dark media or darker media, colored media, from the outside edge in. So when you're doing lighter media, we go from the inside out, if that's where our lighting is there. Let me see, what was that there? Is Paula, oh, are you going to do some fostering there, Paula? Growing up, the family next door was their foster parents. They did that. When their kids were, I think when both of their kids were like out of high school, they started fostering. Okay, so adding that little shimmery texture up top there like that, and going into these waves down below. And with waves or something like that, you can really give it, a lot of movement if you want for, kind of an expressionist type of look if you choose to. If you do it in one area, what you do is you just kind of have to add those same types of textures around a little bit more for it to look kind of more natural. If you just do it in one area, if it's a foreign kind of texture like what I'm doing now with this pen, like making these little marks like that, it looks weird. But so you just have to kind of do it in more areas for it to be kind of more of a universal texture, you know, that it's whatever it's representing. In this case, it's representing lighting and I don't know, kind of different I don't know, just like a different brush mark or something like that on the pieces. Here's what I'm trying to do too. It occurs to me, I don't do this like oftentimes, but see how this is, these waves are kind of, see this motion going up like that? So when I'm going into the white area, I'm coming down like this, okay? To keep the same movement. Or if I'm doing it right here, I'm doing this movement like that. So you can just look at the kind of the shapes and see up here, this is very, you know, very horizontal. So I'm coming like this, out like that. So I'm trying to stay with the same flow of this. And up here, it would be like these arcs like this. Okay. So I'm trying to stay within the spirit of that too. And yeah, I mean, and not all of it is, you know, looks really super you know, like natural to it. But I'm going to come over that with the white pigment ink anyway. So that's going to mellow some of this out too. This is kind of interesting. So I'm coming this way with this one. I'm getting a little bit more free with it. You know, the white colored pencil might work too. It might do it in a much more subtle fashion. I mean, this is kind of subtle too, but see, I'm kind of coming, some areas I'm going like that, and some areas I'm going like that, you know, because the waves are kind of going in a different kind of movement, which is a little different for me. I've never done this, like this type of application of this pen to this extent before, but I don't know, it seems like it's the type of surface that is allowing me to do that. So I don't know if you can even tell what I'm talking about. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit here. Let me see, what did, are you going to put tiny palm trees on these islands? No, I'm not. I would need some really, well, if I put some palm trees like this big, it would bring that area in more, which, you know, would be kind of cool. But I'm doing, this is going to be more like California surfing here. There's palm trees in California, but no islands like with palm trees like that, like Catalina or something like that, or where I grew up on the more of the central coast, it was, you know, like Chaparral, something like that, covered. All right, that's the most texture I've ever used on a scene in terms of little like cross hatching or something like that. Here's where I get rid of these little smudgy marks too that I've put into my thing. You can use this like a little whiteout pen. Okay, let me see. I don't know if you can see that at all, but kind of my camera's still a little bit wonky. When see, look at that those different textures up there with that stays on right over the top. See how shiny it is up there? Oh, let's see. Let's get in some of those textures back in here too. Okay, go like that. All right. I am going to put something down here in these corners, though. I want some sort of element, I don't know, some bushes or something like that. Sage or something like coastal sage or something. But let's go. Okay, I really want to get that in there, but I was like, okay, I need to do the white pigment ink first, though. I'm itching to get in those that final image. I think it's going to be, it's like nice and dramatic. It's like the stage for, I'm creating a stage for this, the kind of the, main focal but star of the scene. And it's like, oh, but wait, you have to do this first. I could have stamped everything out, but then I don't know. It would be I don't think they're going to stand out as much because I'd have to work, certain things. There'd be certain tones that are kind of, over, inside of it and over the top of it, where I want that figure standing out kind of real prominently. And I think if I just give it, stamp it last, it'll give me a really nice, clean impression of it, and nice and uniform without any additional textures in it. Yeah. The islands out there's also, Linda. It really separated the surface from sky. I felt, where if I didn't have those in there, just my little horizon line. I don't know if that was doing it, in terms of really depicting that as, clearly a water surface. I thought, it looks like it could be like part of the sky in some ways. Not that that would be bad, it's not bad to have kind of a not clear delineation between, like earth and sky or whatever. I think that's kind of, there's something kind of, I don't know, this romantic notion of that where you can't tell, where the sky, ends and the, surface begins or something like that too. But in this case, I thought, let's go for a little bit more of a anchoring, some sort of anchoring imagery. Okay, so adding in this white pigment ink around my light source like that, I want to make it glow a little bit more. See, it's kind of creating that kind of glowing moon a little bit more. Like that. And then I'm going to be applying it down here too. Now I didn't, some of these areas of my island didn't stamp, and I think it might have gone over all that little wax there. So I'm going to fill in a little bit like this. Let me see. Let me try to blend that too. I'm going to blend that down a little bit, like about like so. I think I removed some there. Okay, but okay, so you add in that darkness like that, and then I'm going to come back in with the pigment ink. Let's see. Okay. I won't vary those islands too much, but they're just kind of capturing some of that soft light of the moon. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe I will put a little bit more like that. Yeah, so they're catching a little bit of that light of the moon like so. Okay. I mean, you really can't see too much of the what this pigment ink is doing down here because I'm putting white over light, but where I do go over the islands, that's where you're catching it a little bit more. So just so it kind of, we can follow that path of illumination down this way. And this area in here got a little bit too uniform, so I'm just coming in here and adding some more of this light down this way. Okay, so over the top of this cresting wave, let's add some of that. Let's add some of it down here. So I'm adding light in the lighter areas. I'm not like coming into like this area right here that's in the darkness or right in here. I'm adding this where I can kind of extend my light. See, like right there a little bit, you know. See, I'm mellowing out that zone a little bit. So it takes care of some of my areas that I didn't add darker tones or colors or whatever very well. I can come in there and kind of remedy those areas like that, you know. So that going forward, when I'm applying those types of things like that, if there's certain areas that kind of bother me a little bit, you know, it's no problem because I just know that I can just take care of it later on with this type of application. So that's why I don't really sweat those types of things like that. I mean, sometimes, you know, you're trying to push things a lot. So, you know, I do run into things where it's like, I am just not sure if this is going to come out or not. But if it's for coloring types of things, a lot of that has been remedied from the use of the, you know, the paint pens, you know, the acrylic paint pens and white ink like this. Like I got, you know, I got kind of harsh right down here in a couple of those areas with the alcohol pens, okay? And you know, you can come back into it with a blender pen and, you know, smooth some of those areas out, but you can also just use this. Now I'm really liking this light down here, so I'm really adding more and more of this. And if you add too much, then, you know, if you think you need to remove something, then just go like that and remove it, because it doesn't set up so fast that you can't manipulate it. But I'm liking this light coming from kind of like this little area right in here. So I'm just going a little bit lighter and lighter, like right in this area. Okay, and I know my little surfing figure is going to be standing down here somewhere, so I'm just kind of illuminating this little area in here a little bit more for that eventual impression, like that. It's kind of just putting them in the spotlight a little bit more. See, I've kind of lit that area up a little bit like that. When you're surfing, and you know, you've heard those terms about getting in the tube. It's when this water comes over like this, and if you're surfing in here, and that covers you up, not at nighttime, but in the daytime, they call that one of the nicknames for that is in the green room. It's like you get in there and you hear all this sound, and then it's suddenly it's like silent when that wave closes in. Just for that brief moment, there's like nothing. It's like completely silent. And then it starts breaking, and then you can hear it all. But it's really cool when you're in there like that. Okay, so I think that is that. Don't be too afraid of that gel pen, Christine. But that's why I always do point out that when you start utilizing it, if you put a couple things in a couple areas like that, it really stands out from a textural standpoint. It's like, it looks really weird. That's why I always say you have to kind of add those similar textures or patterns throughout, you know, in order for it to become a common thing. If you do like, if I put 2 dots down here and only that, it would stand out from a textural kind of contrast standpoint. But if you do it in enough areas, okay, then it becomes more of, it becomes more representative of, you know, what you're applying it for. So, okay, my camera hasn't been focusing in really well, really close up, but I'll try to get a little bit closer here. So it gets a little bit wonky. I think that's about as close as I can get. But see, I'm going to use some of these little white pen marks, and I was doing lines before, but now I'll use some little dots just, to make a point right here. So I'm adding more in these areas. So for me too, I add white into white so I can get a feel of it. Then I taper it off like this. And plus too, I mean, if you're a little bit gun shy about using something that has so much contrast, meaning white against a darker area, if you have those other tones, like in here, there's a lighter blue, a medium blue, and stuff like that. So you can put a lighter blue on there or a medium blue in a blue area where there's not as much contrast between it and, whatever value you're using. This one, white against this, it's going to be the strongest contrast possible, right? So, it's good to use, if you have them, you can use colors in there too, in those darker areas. So, like, a medium tone over dark, it's not going to stand out so much by contrast. So it's not so stark. Like, oh my God, that really stands out too much. Then just use a darker pen. You know what I mean? So you get the highlight, but you don't get as much contrast. And then you can work it the same way that you do with adding tones down. Starting with lighter tones and working darker, darker, darker. On something like this, you can work from darker and then work lighter. So that's one of the things that we have these days. We have all of these different mediums now. We've always had like white paint pens before, going back into like the 80s, but we haven't had like the availability of so many different colors and values in these pens, so you can really take advantage of all kinds of different values. Okay, so that being said, so I'm adding in white and like down here, why not use a tan version of it too for highlights in here? So I can go in here, like this is practically invisible, but I'm getting that texture. I can see it here. I don't think you can you can see it there on, like my video's not picking that up, but I don't know, you can see it a little bit. See these little dots around in these areas. So I'm adding this in those darker areas, but I'm also getting the texture without getting the contrast. Like if I put a white out here, it would like totally stand out too much. Or here's a blue. Let's go with a little bit of a lighter. Okay, so like something like this. You really have to shake these up a lot. I haven't been, I would, if I was just stamping here without doing this on a live stream, I would use like all of my lighter pens and stuff like that too, but I know that's like me sitting here applying, 2,000 dots isn't the most dynamic video to watch, live stream. Not that any of it is, but see this, I'm putting some of these little dots out here, and it just doesn't show up as much. I don't know if you can see that, like out here. See, it's like I'm transitioning from white to a darker blue in the darker areas like that, so you can get, like these little types of touches in there without so much contrast. So I don't do it all the time because again, but someone said, okay, I want you to work on a piece and I want you to take, a certain amount of time with it and really develop it to the max, then I would really use all of, my different colors that I have in that set that match this color scheme right here. Okay, so, all right, now you got me using this now. I can't put it down. Okay, but anyways. Okay, so there's that. All right. And let's get to this right here, the bleed-proof white. It would look like a white stripe down the middle of the scene. Let's see, what were you referring to, Paula, there? Was it the paint pen, or was it the white pigment ink right there? Well, yeah, I mean, the thing about what you guys are saying, though, about being heavy-handed with something, you can be as heavy-handed as you want to be. Just don't, if you're heavy, like too heavy-handed about applying things, then just have less media on whatever you're applying. So, you know, if I have a certain amount of ink on my, paper towel when I'm applying it down, if I'm too heavy-handed, then just don't have as much ink on there. Just dry brush it on, like remove it and adjust accordingly. Then when you get the feel of it, then you can apply more ink where you have the touch of it. But just, that's what I always do. That's what I always tell people. You just kind of take things in a slower motion. Usually, though, people aren't used to doing that if you're using like, this color of ink right here. When they apply it, they expect to see this, okay? They don't expect to see like that right there, right? That amount of ink. So it's like if they don't see that, then they like go like smash it down or something like that because they want to see a much darker version of it. But I don't know. I put it akin to, I always say my analogy would be like, okay, for certain, not for the first color or something like that, but if you're applying, like, let's say you have a toddler or something like that. We're talking about toddlers or something like, little kids here. My analogy would be, let's imagine you're applying, like with the white pigment ink. Let's say we're applying white pigment ink to a child's face for, some sort of, like Halloween or something like that. You know what I mean? You're not gonna be so heavy-handed that you're hurting like a child's face, right? You're going to be applying it like in a lighter motion like that. And that's kind of what you would do for something like the white pigment ink there, for like the first colors of ink that I laid down with the re-inker, where it's much more of a slathering of it. Then you can go on there much more, whatever, vigorously or whatever like that. But, it just adjusts accordingly, depending on what, purpose that medium is being utilized for. And everyone has it in them, to do whatever type of medium. But I do know where that comes into play. It's because it's a very light version of something, and no one's usually used to doing that with their media. They want full types of applications with a marker or whatever. But when you're doing these kind of lighter versions of everything like that, you can really take advantage of all of the different capabilities of every single color, because you can take every color from whatever intensity it is and value all the way down to white using just drier versions of it. So you can really kind of, okay, here, I need to concentrate here a little bit. But yeah, you can really maximize all of your different pads. Like say you don't have a medium tone, whatever, green, then just take your darker green and just use a drier version of it. You know what I mean? Or you need a much lighter turquoise or something like that, where all you have is dark. Well, then just utilize a drier version of that one and a full version of a more neutral blue or something like that, less warmth. Okay, so anyways, I put a bunch of that little splashing kind of action down here, so this Dr. Martens is really perfect for something like that, I mean, you can do all of that with your white paint pen too, but it's just, getting that kind of splatter type of action, throughout that like that. It kind of illuminated that whole area in there too for me. All right, so I think now is the time for our little figure. Please don't, I'm saying this to me, please don't drop the stamp at this point in time. Okay, just trying to get it on there nice and straight. Let's see here. I can't remember the last time I dropped a stamp. It's probably happened at some point in time. I don't know when. But that's usually my example, is that you can kind of correct anything that happens along the scene. And then my usual thing would be, you know, unless you drop the stamp or something. But then, you know, if you get a double impression or something like that, then, I don't know, just cover it up with something. I don't know what I'd cover up with in here. I'm stamping this out a few times. This is the first time I've used this set. It's a brand new set that I opened tonight. I've had, you know, all these stamps out before, you know, and whatever my wood mounted form, but I didn't have the larger long border here. Okay. There's a movie called Big Wednesday, kind of, I mean, it didn't have this background in there like that, but that was one of my favorite movies, surf movies, but the poster logo for that. I didn't get some of that stamped out again. I think it, okay, now some of this is going over that wax, I know. So you see that open area in there? So I'm just gonna fill that in. All right, so I was pretty lucky with my StazOn before. Over wax, but it didn't stick this time on a couple different areas like that up there and here. So, I don't know, just fill it in. Let's see right here. I'm just going on with a Sharpie pen. I tend to see StazOn almost like a, you know, it's like the Sharpie of the stamp world in terms of that solvent ink like that. Okay, so see that right there? But do you see what's missing down here now? Where that figure is? Can anyone guess what's missing right there? Be my stampatary, stamp secretary. I can have my perfect scene every time. When I go to full screen, it's like I'm right on top of your workspace. No need to bring the camera in. Oh, okay. I didn't think about that, Linda. But then when you go to full screen, you got my big mug there. It's like it looks like probably like I'm eating the scene there up in that space. Okay, let's see, the sprinkle, even more terrifying. I have a video on splatter painting there, Paula. I never thought I'd need it, but it was like, oh, you know, a couple people mentioned that, so I did splatter things, a splatter video. It was just too much. They were probably using too much. They probably, I didn't ask people what they were doing, but they probably filled this up like this, and then they went like this. They went like this, like zip, like that. Where what I'm doing is I'm filling up this very small section of the toothbrush, and then I'm wiping a lot of it off. Then when I'm going like this, it's like I'm going like this. See, I'm letting loose like one or two bristles, then I'm coming back. I'm not continuing down like that. I'm just going like couple, 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 like that. It might be like, I don't know, it might be like 7 bristles at most. Okay, let's see. Did it? Yeah, Kay got it there. Yeah, Christine. Okay, yeah. All of you got it. You're experts there. Exactly. So it's not anchored down. So everything else has been defined by shadows. Exactly. So that's something that I see people, like the beginners, not doing sometimes. So they don't anchor down their figures. Now I just make this up like this. I'm kind of going off from the feet like this, and I'll put a little bit of a longer thing for the long board like that. So I'll come over like this, but this is getting lighter right here. Okay. So I'm going a little bit darker next to the thing that's casting the shadow, and then you kind of, you know, it kind of breaks up and dissipates a little bit more. So it's going like lighter right out here, and you can just do it accordingly. Like about like this. The shadow would probably be going back a little bit longer, maybe. Let's see, I'll bring him back a little bit more like this. But I'm not going to make this shadow too long. Like if that moon was there, that shadow would be going all the way down here. But I want to stamp in some foreground like this, so I want to establish that shadow more if this was like way overhead. Like it would be out of the scene, you know. But this is where you do your artistic, you know, you take your artistic license, okay? So the shadow is like here, okay? So it's within the scenes. I've established them kind of standing there a little bit more like that. Okay. It looks like it's looking off a cliff or something like that down in that. Of course, that would be like a gigantic, like, I don't know, like 40-foot wave or something like that. I need some more shadow down there like that. Okay, but let's do some little elements down here. I'm gonna add in some like, I don't know, whatever, coastal shrub, something like this maybe. Or I can go for some drier shrubs in here too. Maybe I'll go for both. Oh, here too. Let's add in some of this Tiny Rocks stamp. Great job on the shadow. Recognition there from all of you. Excellent. You know, you guys know your lighting. You know, you all know your lighting very well. And of course, the shadows are, you know, part of the lighting. You know, very significant part of the lighting is shade, okay? Because shade in this situation is the thing that defines the light, which I can say most of the time, but you know, in working with foils, you're actually kind of working with light because, you know, the light is like reflecting off of that. So that's why I find that the foil so fascinating to work with, is because it's one of those, I mean, white is reflecting light off the paper, but not like foils. You know, foils, it's really, you're getting a really significant portion of light coming back at you off of the surface. So I don't know, a lot more exploration to come. A lot of people would, you know, when you think about surfing, you're thinking about tropical or something like that. But you know, a lot of the surfing, like on the West Coast, it's like down in the Baja Peninsula or Mexico and stuff like that, or there's this areas Todos Santos, and you know, some of the best surfing around. But let's add in some bushes here in the foreground. Just to frame off our nighttime surfer. It reminds me of my brother standing there with his longboard. I still see a little bit of the shadow like that. Okay, so this is a really elongated piece. A lot of times I you know, come up here farther with my foreground foliage, but there's just not room on this one. It's just too tall, you know, for the content in here. You know, if I had like a, you know, like a big waterfall in here that represented something that was 15 feet away, then you can come out, you know, with foreground like over the top of this if you wanted to. But on this piece like this, I think just that lower portion like that. So hopefully that has created a nice evocative lighting scenario. Oops, let's see. Lighting scenario. Here, let me see too. Let me get my exposure right here. Okay, that's better there. Okay, so that's about what this is looking like for me in person. It was a little bit overexposed there for a minute. Or for, I don't know, the last, how long have we been on here? It was overexposed for the last, like, 2 hours. Okay, let's see. A bro card. Could be. Okay, let's see. I never know how fast that stays on dries. I guess it's going to dry a little bit slower, being that I have all that kind of that colored pencil, that wax down there too, huh? All right, let's see. Let's get this mounted up here. That stays on still looks wet up there, but it's not. It's just because it's, it's just so shiny, that solvent ink. Okay, now, on this one right here, I believe the thing that I would do is I would spray this with a matte. I'm going to spray this with my matte Krylon spray, my workable fixative, because I don't have the UV resistant matte spray, which would be my choice. So I would just do this with a workable fixative, just to keep that kind of more, I don't know, that more satiny type of finish. And then it would also bring a little bit of more uniformity. See, I don't like the super shiny. I mean, I think it looks okay, but that super shininess of the stays on like that. And down here, like I said, I mean, it looks okay, but if you hit it with a universal spray like a Krylon, like I said, it could be the glossy too. If you spray this with a glossy like 1 or 2 times, like a couple passes, it's not going to make this glossy. If you hit it with a lot of it, it will, like several coats and let it dry, then hit it again. But if you just hit it a little bit, the thing that you'll get is a stronger saturation of all those different tones, especially the blues that I've used in here. The colors down here, that's pretty rich down here, I find, but it'll become even richer with that spray seal. But from a textural standpoint, it'll just bring a little bit more uniformity between the different ink textures that are happening within this piece. And sometimes that's good, in order to create separation, but I tend to like it more when spray sealed, mostly for the color richness being enhanced, but also for that kind of textural uniformity. Okay, let me see if I can get this down here without totally like smudging up all this. These fingers are really blue. Okay, let me do it this way. I gotta stand up for this one. All right, close enough, I think. I think I totally smudged some of that. I might have smudged some of that Brilliance ink, though. I don't know why that's all like that smudgy like that right there. There we go. I must have put my finger in like a big area of that white pigment ink or something like that and smudge this dark area up here. Just, I don't know, just color. Spray sealing that will, get rid of that too, or it should. I think I don't know, I don't know, these This is the inkiest my hands have been in a scene in a long time. I don't know what happened here. I think I was like smudging something with my finger all over here, so. Those little smudges like that, a lot of that will disappear though when you spray seal it too, because it becomes a little bit more, transparent. Okay, doing some fine tuning here. Let's see. All right, I think that will do it. A little bit more shadow work in here. Okay, yeah. That. All right, so there we have it. Anyone have a good name for this piece? If anyone's still on. There's that movie, Big Wednesday. This looks like the Big Wednesday poster too. But and people that don't know that movie wouldn't have any idea what that's referencing. Thanks, Linda. The last stamp that I used. The leaves. Yeah, the leaves really helped it out, didn't it, Christine? It totally anchored this down. But do you see why I saved that foreground for the end like that too? It's because if I stamped it first, which you can do, going over all of this area with the colored pencil, I just think it wouldn't look so crisp like this. So, those little final things like that really brought it together. And I like the texture too of the little tiny rocks and this little craggy little branch too. I don't know. I mean, it's just like little tiny things like that. I really like adding in those little details like that. I just think it kind of finishes off the piece really nicely, and it kind of anchored it down. So see these islands up here that were really dark too? Before I had these down, which I knew I was going to do these down here. I didn't do these because I had these up there, but it balanced it off from the top and bottom too. Those islands up there, even though they're really small, they weren't a big significant portion, but they kind of made the scene top heavy in terms of solid imagery like that. So these things down here kind of balance off that space up there, from a visual standpoint. Now, I mean, you can do things like dramatic imbalance too, and I've done a video in regards to that, but most of the times I try to balance things out from a visual weight perspective. So just thinking about this in terms of just a composition and not thinking about the narrative. So if it was something like this too, if you turn something like this and you see this visual weight over here and this visual weight, it's nice and balanced again. So it's not bad sometimes when you're working on your pieces. If you start working, see, I'm working on these pieces and I'm adding tone like this. I turn it on its side and I'm working on it like this, coming in like this. Then when I'm doing this up here, I often turn it like this and I'm streaking in this way. I'm looking at this piece from all different angles so that I can see sometimes, in terms of things like those visual weights, if you look at it from different angles like that, it'll tell you more clearly sometimes if your kind of piece is balanced in a way, or if you need to add something a little bit here or there, more lighting, more shadows in an area, than looking at it like this. Because when we look at it like this, we're looking at some things literally. In other words, we're thinking about moon, islands, wave, land or something like that. So when you look at it, something like this, we're just, it becomes more abstract in our mind, and we're just looking at like weight, visual weight or something like that. You're not thinking about this as a wave anymore or something like that. There was this book called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, and that's what that was about. They had people drawing things upside down, and they were like suddenly like really great artists because they weren't thinking about like specific shapes anymore. They were thinking about like areas or they were thinking about shapes. They weren't thinking about like a nose anymore or something like that, something quite so literal. And I don't know. I have a feeling that has something to do with kind of flipping things around like that a little bit. Let's see. Ongoing. Christine has an ongoing project at home at the moment, but I'm a bit stuck on coloring. Work it from the basics, Christine. And this is what I have people do in my workshops. I just have people line up their color schemes like this. And I would say that in my workshops, I always had people do that. I'd just say, okay, just grab, this is going to be a blue scene, so grab all the blues you have and line it up like that. Because what people do is they go from, okay, they say, okay, I'm going to just do blue. And they make it theoretical, and they add this color blue down like that. And then the next color blue they're going in is like something like 80% darker or something like that than the first one. And then they start laying down this color, and it's like becomes a really precarious type of thing because it's not incremental. It's like a huge contrasting change. So they add that down. It's like, oh my God, that's like a big dark mark. Well, it's because you skipped like, you know, all the colors in between. But if you just work it incrementally, it's really hard to kind of come up with anything that you don't want, especially if you're applying your darker tones in a much drier version than their pure thing. Then it's just getting a little bit darker each time. And then the biggest thing is the retention of light. When like I said, going back to that thing, when I'm in my workshops, it never happens because I'm always reminding people, okay, now that you're on that number, whatever, number 10 blue, now just don't take it in quite as far as you did with the number 60 blue or whatever colors they happen to be working with, so just take it nice and incremental, and it's much less of a precarious thing. And that's why I do it. And not only that, it's not because it's just easier, it's because you get richer tonal palettes too, because you go and you add in all those other tones. So if I just went with dark blue here, then I wouldn't get that glowing kind of aspect of all those different colors like that. And again, you do the same thing with your colored pencils. You can work it with, I worked it from, light, medium, and darker blue to black like that. And then when I was doing some of those pens, then I just worked it from a lighter tone to a darker tone. I didn't go with like a super light one because I already had all my dye-based colors like that, but you just work your ranges of colors like that. And just don't take things so fast. And then if you, what I do also in my Stampscapes 2 class, I have people do a monochromatic. And that's something that I always recommend it to people, but it's like maybe 5% of the people do it. And that's the thing that gives people a lot of control over it. And that's also the thing that gives people a command of lighting. But I know people don't like to do that because they like colors, but they'd only have to do like 2 or 3 of those, and they would have lighting down like really, and also the use of the darker tones. These are the ones that are hard to control, but if you do a whole scene only using these colors and using them in very dry versions, it gives people a total command of their darker color schemes, even if they're adding it onto their lighter ones. It just, it changes everything for them. And then they never have problems with darker colors again. Usually, I don't know. I say that, but, that's from the people that I've seen. And that's what I know. That's the way they always teach art classes, Beginning drawing, it's almost always monochromatic. Not painting like oil painting, but drawing classes, which usually comes before painting. It's always monochromatics. It's charcoals, graphite, and, if anything, like a monochromatic wash or something like that. And illustration classes, it's a full semester of just doing only grayscale. So that's the same type of thing that can apply with scenes like this in terms of coloring. So when you think about coloring, it's not just the usage of color, it's really more the usage of the amount of media that we're talking about there in terms of control. So, yeah. Yeah. So send photos, or yeah, take a photo and email it to me, Christine. Stampscapes@gmail.com, and I'll take a look at it. Or what you do is if you have, if anyone ever has, this goes for anyone, not just Christine here, but if anyone's ever on here, and let's say you have two or three scenes that you just, can't figure out or whatever, you can mail them to me and I can finish them off for you or something like that. I'll show you exactly. And most of the times, a lot of times people, when they think they've gone astray, I've mentioned this before too, about 98% of the time when I see something or someone says, oh, I messed up this scene. They're talking about they're talking about their scene in a complete, you know, a completed form. But when I look at it, it's like 98% of the times it's like just not finished. They got to, two or three of the colors and they just didn't finish it off. There's all kinds of other things they can do. Daytime scenes, I get you there too. So a lot of times I go darker in my pieces because I like deeper, richer saturations. If you're doing something that's high noon, it's harder to come up with a high noon type of scene that's flooded with light and there's only kind of mid-tone colors in it. It goes from light to about mid-tone, grassy meadows and a lighter sky. It's easy to do those, but it's harder to come up with kind of the drama in them and dramatic changes or something like that. Or it doesn't even have to be drama, but just varied looks, because you have to go to your darker tones. And sometimes the darker tones, it's easier when you have darker tones representing just darker times of day, later times of day, sunset, twilight. That's why in landscape photography, most landscape photographers set up in certain times of day, and they call it the golden hour usually. And it's usually that hour, like around, late day where the shadows are getting longer, the light gets more brilliant, twilight, different colors come out or something like that, or early morning, And it's because of those different types of things. So most of the times, like landscape photographers, they're not out like during noon or something like that. I mean, they might be if there's like really great cloud formations, but if they're going for color, we're talking about, that golden hour, So that being said, I just try to use contrast in the form of imagery or something like that. So I might go with a dark bush like this or something like that against your daytime types of things like that. So because remember that when you're looking at a daytime scene or photography, you're dealing with colored light or something like that. But when we're creating a scene on a white piece of paper, we're not working with light anymore, okay? We're working with contrast. So in order to make something light and bright or something looking, you have to put something darker next to it. So like that moon up there, the only thing that's saying that that's a really bright moon is that darkness around it like that. Because light isn't really reflecting heavily off of a white piece of paper. So we have to go a little bit darker, even in those daytime scenes. For me, when I'm doing those, from a contrast standpoint, and then that contrast is where you get that a little bit more of your, I don't know, richness, I guess, when you're talking about richness. Color richness. It's really a value richness, but it's, getting that type of thing. So So just send me all those. Send me all of the scenes that you've done or you've colored, and we'll take a look at it. I can always tell like instantly what it is though, or what needs to be done. And sometimes it's a matter of not only stamping your imagery in one tone, but doing it in multiple tones too. And using your imagery to create those types of value changes. That's another thing I do in my second class too. I have people do work in multiple values for that purpose. The final scene in Point Break with Keanu Reeves. Yeah, let me see. It was Keanu Reeves, and he allowed Patrick Swayze to go catch that last wave. I forgot where that location was. I don't know if it's Todos Santos or something like that, but they were trying to get this professional surfer to go out there and wipe out, and this one professional surfer, I forgot his name. I knew who he, I don't know him personally, but I knew his name. He said, "There's no way he's going to wipe out." He goes, "If I go for that wave out there, he goes, I'm going to try to make it, but that's not what they used for the movie. Patrick Swayze's got to crash and die out there." So, yeah. Your intro doesn't match the video. Oh, Tropical Shimmer. Oh, I didn't change that one. Yeah, that's right. I changed it to a live stream, and I didn't change the title of this one. I don't know. I changed all that stuff afterwards, anyways. Yeah, the Tropical Shimmer was going to be my was the last live stream that I did with the was it the palm trees and the I don't know. It was one of those mirrored cards. I love those mirror cards. I think this is the best shimmer that I ever got in a card before, by the way. Speaking of shimmer, this wasn't the Tropical Shimmer, but all of that texturing on down there, that's the most shimmery water surface that I ever got before, I think, on a card. This is like from 2 weeks ago or something like that. Using that silver stock, but also using the water pattern on the side like that, and then putting that white down the middle, but then just stamping the water pattern in that white too. So I need to do that again. But anyways, yeah, these rainbow holographic over gold like this is something that I really need to explore. You know what occurred to me with these mirror cards like this? This rainbow holographic, I was thinking about it in terms of this rainbow holographic is reflecting down in this gold down here. Okay. But what I wasn't really thinking about was this gold is strong enough to where it's reflecting back up here. So the rainbow holographic is reflecting down here in the gold, but that gold is reflecting that rainbow holographic back into itself. That's why it looks so, I don't know, it's a little bit more dynamic up here. It's not just, see, that's what the rainbow holographic looks like as is. But it looks like that, because of this is reflecting back up, it's reflecting those colors that are reflecting into it back up into itself. So, I don't know. It's like a double whammy. It's like a triple whammy or something like that in terms of the effects you get from it. That's why I have two of these already prepped right here, ready to go, with more of those rainbow holographics up here. And those cards are really fast too, so, and it's like the fastest type of card you can do. Anyway, all right. So, anyways, if anyone is still on, thanks for joining in. My first, Great Wave kind of set number 5 vid based wave videos in a while, or wave cards. I don't know if I've done I can't remember if I've done that Great Wave in a video before. I think I have. I would think so. At this point in time, I don't know how many videos I have. 1,100 or I don't know. There's over 1,000 uploads, so I don't know, quite a few. But I would think I would have used that wave somewhere along the line. I know I have it in samples, but I can't remember if I've done it in a video format. Yeah, that gold, Kay, I'm telling you, that gold is insane. I need to do like a longer piece like this on that holographic too. The longest we can do for me, mounting it, would be, 11 inches. So maybe we'll have to do that. I guess that's a slimline too. going lengthwise like that, it would be like this size right here. It'd be this size right here, like that. You know, rainbow holographic, and then another piece of the gold down below. I think that'd be really cool like that. But I don't know. It's a really dynamic combination, and again, it's just so easy to do because you know those mirror cards almost make it to where you have to kind of put on the brakes as far as your different applications because it's. I'm convinced the simpler the better because you get more contrast against you don't want to have things too cluttered up here, cluttering up the reflection portion down below. But I do want to come up with a version of this, or some kind of version of this on, just only working on that rainbow card because I'd love to see. I thought about doing this wave and then cutting it out, and then having the sky up top, that rainbow holographic up here, and maybe the horizon would be down here, something like this. Or I could put the horizon up here. I guess that'd be the easiest. Cutout is just to cut it out like that, and then you just put a little cube of that. But I wasn't quite sure. I thought there would be a real mismatch between this lower portion and then having this rainbow holographic with all these multicolored tones up there. It'd be really hard to match this up unless I went like down here with it. So some of this rainbow holographic would come down here. And I would just put in some textures up top or something like that. It would still be kind of a little bit mismatched a little bit, but it might be mismatched in a good way where it was nice and dramatic of a contrasting element or something like that. But I'd love to get those colors up there somehow, like that, changing tones and stuff. I'd really have to tone this in a little bit more like I did before and kind of streak it in with some black, though, to match it up a little bit more. I don't know. That's something I'm playing around with more still, though. Okay, but anyways, yeah. I would imagine everyone's, oh my God, it's 1:40 a.m. here, so yeah, for them, they're talking like 5 or something like that. Yeah, a holographic mural to go with, yeah. Anyway, okay, so thanks again, everyone. Thanks for checking out the scene, and we'll see you on the next stream. Exclamation. All right, thanks, Christine. Thanks for joining in, checking it out. Yeah, send me that. Send me the photos. Send me the photos of anything, any cards that you're working on, and we'll see. We'll take a look, and I'll tell you what you can do. I'll give you some suggestions there on how to finish the pieces off. All right, thanks again, everyone.